Hey there friends, and welcome to Laugh Napkin. My name is Frank, and I want to say wow, what an amazing response from everyone to the introduction of r/youarefired. So like I said, this subreddit is new, so stories are pretty scarce, but there are a few more awesome stories that I'll be reading for you today. I encourage you all to go join the subreddit to show your support and or share a story of your own. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So I figured I'd tell my story on one of the worst, but also hilarious and best karma served customer experiences I ever had. So a bit of backstory. I work for a Canadian retailer, which was like the Canadian version of Walmart. One important note for later though is this retailer has an automotive service department. This happened in November 2013, so I was about 21 at the time. I've also suffered a brain injury since then, so some parts are fuzzy because of it, but I'll get it as close as I can remember. It's a long story, but it'll be worth it. I ran the hardware section of the store, which included paint products. I get a call on the walkie-talkie I'm wearing to come to customer service. As I go up, I pass who I found out will be our angry customer headed back to paint. He looked like he had a Pacific Islander background. When I reached the front, my friend who ran customer service handed me a can of spray paint and asked me to feel it. I pick it up and can immediately tell it's empty. There was a tiny amount that remained, but it was hardly anything. My friend told me the customer was claiming it was the wrong color. I said it's empty. The customer used the whole thing, and told her I'll inform the customer when he comes back. After a minute, the customer comes back up, and I proceed to tell him that there's nothing we can do. He immediately flips, saying it's the wrong color. I tell him the can's empty, he used the whole thing, so we can't do anything. He yells at me, "How can you tell?" I replied with, "I can tell by the weight, sir. There's a tiny amount left on the bottom, but that's normal for a can of empty spray paint. You can't use all of it." He gets more irate, saying that the can is defective then, that he wanted to use every single drop, and that it's only half full. Me and my friend reinstate what we said, that the can was empty and that there's nothing we can do. If he wanted to use every drop, he'll have to take the issue to the company who made the can, because we weren't going to take an empty can of spray paint back. I was getting rather annoyed at this point too. He then starts yelling at me, "Stop giving me your effing attitude. You're being effing unreasonable. I want to use every single drop. Stop being an effing a-hole and stop being effing unreasonable." He just kept repeating that again and again, slamming his fist into the counter. I had enough of him and said, "If you're just gonna swear, sir, you can get out of the store." Then his tone changed, but not in the way you might think. "Come and meet me outside. I'll be out there waiting for you. We can settle this like men. I'm sick of your effing attitude. We'll settle this out there. You're being nothing but an a-hole." My friend then interjects, "Sir, you cannot be threatening my staff." He replied with, "It's a free country, I can do what I want," and then continues on with his threats. I tell my coworker to call the police, and at this point, because of this, a lot of customers were gathered at the cash register watching the whole thing happening. My friend was on the phone telling them what was going on to the police, and also yelling at the guy that he does not get to come in and threaten staff, and that there was no excuse for his behavior. He said he has no problem with her, but that I'm the one who has the issues. I took over the cash register, tried to keep customers going through with their purchases, while this customer continued on with his tirade of threats and poor customer service. Every customer gave me that look that says, "He's such a jerk. You don't deserve that." Out of the corner of my eye, I see one customer talking to the irate man. I can hear him say, "Listen, buddy, this worker isn't being unreasonable. I can hear you and only you from the other side of the store. You're the one who's being unreasonable." But he denies it, saying that I was the unreasonable one and the a-hole. This one other nearby customer then seemed to snap. This guy was big, maybe over 6 feet tall, well over 280 pounds. He yelled, "You do not threaten this worker. If you do, I'll take you out there and wipe your booty on the concrete myself." This is when the guy finally goes quiet. But wait, it keeps getting better. He seems to give up and grabs his belongings to leave. When my friend said, "You can't leave, sir. The police are on their way." He didn't listen and walked out. I took a deep breath. Normally when I get angry, I shake. So to most people, it would look like I was shaking because I was upset. A second later, 2 cops walk in, and I inform them that the customer just walked out. But as luck would have it, the customer came back in at that second. For whatever reason, I'm not too sure. And I pointed him out to the cops, as well as several customers. The cops quickly grabbed him and put cuffs on him, which surprised me. I could hear him say, "What did I do? I didn't do anything." But another customer suddenly yelled out, "How does that feel now, a-hole?" So they take him outside to their cruiser, and I could see them talking to him as he sat in their back seats, and him shaking his head angrily in denial. After a few minutes, one of the cops come back in, and the one says he's denying everything he says, but he wants to make an apology. I tell my friend she can go out if she wanted. I had little patience left to go see him face to face. So she goes out, and when she comes back in, she said he was crying and in tears, saying how sorry he was. But he also added, "But I'm not apologizing to him." To which she said the cop told him to shut up. So the cop said they weren't going to press charges, and didn't give me the option of pressing any on my own. I firmly believe everyone should be held accountable for their actions, so I would have pressed them if they asked. They file a no trespass notice for him, saying he is not allowed back into the store, or he would be arrested, and they let him go. Things get even better, believe me. So later in the week, I had a day off, and the next day I come in, my manager approaches me and tells me the guy came back into the store. He said when he went to confront him, he was at the service bay waiting area, and told him, "You're not allowed to be here in the store. We can have you arrested right now." The guy then panics and backs into the waiting room for the service bay. "Please don't. See, I'm not in the store anymore." My manager said, "Yes, you're still in the store. Being in the parking lot counts as being in the store." He told me the guy then began to panic, saying, "Please don't arrest me. I just want to shop here again. Please, I just want to shop here again." My manager gave him these options, that he fully apologizes to me, and that's even if I was comfortable with him shopping there again. So he asked me if I was, and I told him he's just going to say he's sorry so he can shop here again. He made it very clear he wasn't sorry for what he did, so no, I don't want him shopping here again. He said he'll phone the customer and tell him he's banned for life. But this is where the karma comes in. Less than a year later, that one customer who threatened to wipe his booty on the concrete came in, and my friend on the cash register recognized him and thanked him for standing up for me. He said it enraged him because he knew the guy. Apparently, his wife works with the irate customer at a child agency of some sort, and that this guy works with kids, and there he was threatening a kid, which made him mad. He said that because the agency caught wind of the incident, and they have a zero tolerance for their workers getting arrested, getting in trouble with the law and stuff like that, he was fired from his job. I did encounter this guy one more time at my next job, but he didn't seem to recognize me. But thinking back on it, maybe he did, because he hasn't showed up to my new job since. So that's probably the most intense experience I've had. I've had others that I'll post about, but they won't be to that level. This story is nuts. All this over an $8 can of spray paint? Some people need to learn how to act. Throwing a tantrum when you don't get your way doesn't seem like the best way to approach life. On to the next story. So this takes place a few months ago. I was still away at school when this happened, but my coworkers told me about it when I got back at the start of the summer. Context: I work for a pretty big liquor store, and the main character of this story, a coworker I'll just call Joe, started at the end of the previous summer. Joe quickly gained a reputation of being notoriously lazy, and gained the unofficial title of break room manager for sitting in the break room all the time. Upper management is pretty lax for the most part, so you can get away with a lot before getting into trouble. I guess this got to Joe's head, which leads us to the actual story. The story. One night when the store was closed, Joe and a new hire were tasked with quickly going through the vodka aisle before clocking out. While doing this, Joe tells the new guy to keep an eye out at the front of the aisle. Confused, the new guy does what he's told, and then turns to Joe tucking a bottle of Grey Goose into his coat. Joe looks at him and says, "Ballin' on a budget," and walks away. Upon seeing somebody blatantly stealing from the store, the new guy did what any sane person would do on their first day on the job, and went right to the manager on duty to tell him about Joe stealing the vodka. The next day, Joe got called into the office and was fired by my boss. From what I was told, apparently Joe offered to bring the vodka back, but my boss said that he could keep it as a going away present and to get out of the store. Wow, I feel like this could be on r/stupid criminals, cause jeebus, how dumb can someone be? Anyways, that wraps up today's video. Thanks so much for watching and all of your support. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you tomorrow.